What's up everyone, OJ here. Welcome back to another OJ Speaks. Today, we've got some great topics for you guys, so let's go ahead and hop right in, shall we? We're starting off with my most anticipated game of 2019, and that is Fire Emblem Three Houses. And I wanted to talk about this game because we recently had a PE live discussion on it, and a lot of you guys had a bunch of great things to say about it, but some of you guys expressed some concern about the game because it's already been delayed once, and now since the whole Metroid Prime situations went down, everyone's been asking, well, what about these games that have been delayed or we haven't heard a lot about? Bayonetta or Fire Emblem or whatever the case is. And rest assured guys, I think Fire Emblem Three Houses is just fine, and I'm honestly not worried about the game at all. And let me give you guys some reasons why. Well, one, this isn't a completely different developer that's developing Fire Emblem Three Houses. Now if they took this game and maybe gave it to, I don't know, Bandai Namco, or gave it to like Retro Studios or Next Level or something, then maybe you might have some concern there because they're not used to developing games like Fire Emblem. But this is Intelligent Systems. This is the same company that's made some of the greatest games of all time, in my opinion, and have one-upped themselves in a lot of the games beforehand. A lot of the core team is still there working on these games. It's not like they've been having a ton of different turnover or layoffs. They've actually been getting bigger over the years. So to me, this team at Intelligent Systems, they're one of the most stable and dependable teams out there when it comes to Japanese studios, and especially within Nintendo. They've been doing a phenomenal job with the Fire Emblem franchise, whether it's the Fire Emblem Heroes or the 3DS games, and now moving on to their first HD title with Fire Emblem Three Houses. Another reason why I'm not worried about this game at all is because we've actually seen gameplay of the game. We've seen cutscenes of the game. It's been running beautifully from what we saw, the concepts, the gameplay, what they've put together. That was a very well-made trailer that showed you the base concept of the game and kind of the theme and what you'll be doing. They had that huge castle part where you can roam around. They had battle scenes. They showed off the new elements and features with the troops and the commanders and everything. So to me, it showed that not only do they have a base game running just fine, but the concepts and what they're doing are all put together as well. So I'm not worried about Fire Emblem when it comes to any of those aspects. But let's talk about when this game could actually be released, because a lot of people are wondering, well, when will it come out? Well, officially, according to Nintendo at least, they said spring 2019. So that can be anywhere from around March, April-ish to about June, July-ish. Somewhere in that time frame, we should see Fire Emblem Three Houses if they do stick to the spring 2019 release window. Now, if we look back at previous Fire Emblem games, they all have that springish release, and it seems like this is going to be a worldwide type of thing. Before, in the past with the 3DS, Nintendo used to launch Fire Emblem like a year before we get it here in the West, which is just absolutely ridiculous. On the Nintendo 3DS, they would launch like Fire Emblem Awakening. That came out in like 2012 in Japan, then 2013 here in the West. I don't think that's going to be happening this time around. I think they're going to have more of a global launch for this game, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. Now, there is a Fire Emblem Expo that's going down like early May, so I'm thinking that they're going to announce a release date there, or it could be released a little bit before that or a little bit after that to give people hands-on time with the full complete build of the game. So I'm targeting May in terms of what I think, my speculation, when it's going to be, because of that Fire Emblem Expo. Of course, you're going to want to have your brand new shiny Fire Emblem game out there if you're going to have an expo about the Fire Emblem franchise. And on top of that, Nintendo has already stated that Fire Emblem is a major franchise for them. So to me, a major franchise means a major global launch and a lot of publicity. So I think that's going to be happening with this game. And I'm guessing that around May, maybe late April, early May, we're going to be getting our hands in terms of a worldwide release on Fire Emblem Three Houses. So just to kind of recap, I'm not worried about the game at all. I think it's going to be phenomenal. I do think that it's going to be coming out in the spring window. I don't think there's going to be any more delays. Could be wrong, but that's just my thought process on that. And two, I do think that the release window or the date is going to be around early May that we're going to be able to get our hands on the game. So what do you guys think about Fire Emblem Three Houses so far? I know know there hasn't been a ton of information coming out. What they showed us last year at E3 was pretty solid. So let me know your thoughts on the game in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, guys. It looks like we have some good news for Resident Evil 2. Capcom has announced that the game has shipped 3 million units in its first week of release, and really it just came out, so it hasn't even really been a week yet, but their initial push or their shipments was 3 million units across the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and digitally via PC. So this is definitely good to hear, just because this game was very expensive to develop for Capcom. The good news is though that they used the RE engine, which was reused from Resident Evil 7, so it's not like they had to completely make something from scratch in order to get into this game here. So we could see more of these remakes, and I'm happy for the sales for Capcom, because I think that's going to entice them to create more games in this style in terms of bringing back their older IPs. But on top of that, announcing free DLC, which we have the Ghost Survivors, which was just announced. So the more people that hop in, I think that kind of just inspires Capcom to kind of release things a little bit more and have a better schedule and content plan for fans out there. Now let's talk a little bit about what Capcom also said about Resident Evil 3. If fans do want to see a Resident Evil 3 remake, it's going to really depend on the fan demand. So they're basically telling you guys to beg for Resident Evil 3 if you guys want to see it. And with this type of situation, I don't mind fans going out there and saying, yeah, I would love to see Resident Evil 3, because they really have to look at their portfolio. If they're going to make a game as high of quality of what Resident Evil 2 has done, because now you've set the bar super high. So anything else you do definitely has to reach somewhere near the level of Resident Evil 2 in terms of the quality of the make. You might not like some of the things within the game, whether it's like Dino Crisis or if it's a different Resident Evil, but the quality of it graphically, gameplay-wise, additions, all of that, that needs to be on par. So I think a Resident Evil 3, if it's based on fan demand, I think there's going to be a lot of people out there saying, yeah, I'd love to see a Resident Evil 3 being remade in that RE engine. The gameplay is just so silky smooth, and Resident Evil 3 has some pretty crazy parts in there. I'm not a huge fan myself of Resident Evil 3. I've played it, and I just don't think it's that great, at least the original for me. However, if they remade it and they add in the modern type of elements that Resident Evil 2 did, I'd be completely down for a Resident Evil 3 remake. And I wasn't even the biggest fan of Resident Evil 2. I just really liked Leon S. Kennedy, and this Resident Evil 2 remake on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC is absolutely phenomenal in my opinion. Like, it's one of my favorite Resident Evil games of all time, and it's up there with the modern ones because those ones are my favorite. Not the old school. I like the modern Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5. Those are my two favorite ones. But Resident Evil 2, this remake, definitely jumped past Resident Evil 5 for me, and it's kind of knocking at the door when it comes to Resident Evil 4. So for me, it'd be great if they took that Resident Evil 3 base, modernized it, and kind of brought it to this age and put it in that RE engine, Xbox One X, PS4 Pro, whatever the case is. Or heck, maybe at that time it might even be the PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox and PC and all that. Maybe a Nintendo Switch Pro, which we will talk a little bit about that in the next segment here. But what do you guys think about a Resident Evil 3 type of remake, or maybe even something else like a Dino Crisis? I've seen a lot of people talk about that game, and I hated that game when I played it back on the PlayStation 1. If they remade it and modernized it a bit, I think I'd be more down to see what that game has to offer. So what do you guys think about all of this when it comes to Capcom? Great sales of Resident Evil 2, potentially getting some remakes with older classic Capcom franchises. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the final topic here, let's go ahead and talk about this Nintendo Switch Pro discussion. There's been various other YouTubers out there and people that have talked about this is definitely happening. We reported on this last year as well, and even with the original Foxconn leak back in the day of Nintendo doing two different models, one being a base model of the Nintendo Switch and then another being an enhanced model, maybe with 8 GB of RAM and increased GPU and CPU capabilities within a mobile chip. And I think that this is very interesting because Nintendo recently talked about not having, or they're not thinking about a successor at this time, which could easily be interpreted as, well, we're not going to tell you at this time, but things later could change. And you know good and well that the R&D departments over at Nintendo don't shut down after the Nintendo Switch has been released. you always have to think about the future. You always have to think about your next iteration or your next thing that you're doing. That's just how big business works. So everyone's been asking this question to me, and I've pretty much responded with the same thing every time, and I just wanted to get it out in another formal video. Yes, I completely think some type of Nintendo Switch Pro or new Nintendo Switch upgrade is possible, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Nintendo switches things up, just considering the atmosphere of what's going on in the gaming industry right now, with the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X already being out, and then the next systems coming out, which looks like to be 2020. Those are going to launch then, so maybe we start hearing about them later this year. I just think that it's possible that Nintendo could be working on a better revision, and heck, even if it's a revision that doesn't improve much, maybe it's just a small bump, or they can improve the build quality, or they enhance some of the features on the system. I'm not really sure, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that we get a new Nintendo Switch or a stronger Switch out there. Now, here's the thing about this, guys. Don't expect it to be some type of miniature PlayStation 4 or something like that, or Xbox One X in the palm of your hand. I don't think that would happen, because I just don't know if there is a chip at this point that can produce that, and then also with the battery life and then the price of the system, how expensive would something like that be? I think it would be a little bit too much for a mass consumer market type of price. So I don't think it's going to be that, but it could be a nice little bump over what we already have, but we're just going to have to wait and see on it. But my basic premise is this, guys: whenever Nintendo drops it, I'm probably going to go out there and buy it, and we'll see what they do. It might not be this year, it could be next year, but overall I definitely think that Nintendo is working on some type of upgrade or pro version, just because they've done it with all of their systems that can be held in your hand. We've always seen it in the years past, and I don't think this one would be different, considering they've had great success with their previous systems and their upgrades with those systems. Even after a lot of fan pushback with the new Nintendo 3DS, people really didn't like that they did that, and then when the system dropped, people went out there and bought it. So I think we could see the same thing with the Nintendo Switch, but we'll have to wait and see. So what do you guys think about all the different topics that we discussed here? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this one here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Really helps us spread the content of PlayerEssence across the internet, in addition to YouTube. Also, make sure you check out our Patreon, Twitch, and YouTube live gaming pages. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Lets me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for the latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in for the next video. Peace!